Good morning. Hey, it's pretty early in the morning here, so hopefully I don't mess up too badly. But in the last couple videos, we looked at our syntax rules for writing XHTML. And again, you might go back and look at those, but it's the rules for, how do we write the tags? What rules are for putting the element name, the tag, attributes, things like that. So I built this document, and I've included the full document structure, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I got this from the template. But then I went through and made a lot of syntax errors. So I made some, like a capital P, and I didn't close it. Had another capital P. Had a big BR without the slash here. So these are all HTML syntax okay, but XHTML, these are not okay. And then I also left the quotes off here. So, how do we know we've made these mistakes? And part of the problem with HTML, XHTML, is that, well, I can make mistakes, but the page still displays. It looks just fine here if I look at it in the browser. But I've made all kinds of errors. So to catch those errors, what we do is we use a program called a validator. And there's two types of validators. There's online validators and there's standalone that you can get to run on your own system. So we're going to look at one of the online ones. This is free on the internet. And it's this one's run, there's a bunch of them out there, but I'm going to get this one that's run by the w3c. And the w3c, again, is the group that's kind of in charge of HTML and XHTML. And in addition to creating the specifications and recommendations, they also give us some free tools out there. So this is out there on the internet, and they allow us to use it anytime we can check our files. So for this to work, we need to have the full document structure in here, and that's why I have all this stuff up here. Without this, it's going to say, oh yeah, this is just HTML, and we'll just do whatever, anything goes. But if we put this in here and say, no, this is definitely XHTML, we can come to this service, and so we want to validate by file upload. We could also validate by URI. URI is kind of the bigger catch-all for URLs, but I could go to a website and do that. We'll come back to that in a minute. But I'm going to validate by file upload. So I can have the file on my computer. I can browse here and find it. So I go to the folder it's in, grab this, click on it. I say check, and what this does is sends my file up to the w3c and runs it through their validation system. And they say, hey, you know what? You see red here, it's a problem. Said, oh gosh, we've got 22 errors. And so a lot of times you'll have more errors than you really have. And a lot of, if you fix one, it might take care of 2 or 3. So let's just go through here and look at this. But it comes here and tells us, on line 11, column 3, here's exactly what the problem is. This element P is not defined. My browser recognized it because for HTML, P's okay, and it's this paragraph thing. But for this one, it says no, P's not okay. Same thing here, P's not okay. Same thing here, BR's undefined in XHTML. So let's go fix these. We'll make these guys lowercase and see what other errors it finds for us. So BR, I'm just going to fix all the case problems here. IMG, and I'm going to leave the attribute capitalized there. BR, HR, and then my A, same thing. I made it uppercase. And the EMs, I did those too. Okay, so we'll fix the case on all these. And then save this. We'll reload it just to make sure it still looks okay. And it does, but now let's go back. Oops. Sorry, I just wanted to change tabs there. I'm going to go back. Load it up again here. And then say revalidate down here. Click this button. So I had 22 errors, now I only have 15. And if we go here and look, it says, hey, you know what? You can't have a P in this point. It needs to be inside something else at this point. And it's actually, this is not the first P. This is the second P. So this is one of the problems with this. It actually doesn't tell you that your first P is missing its closing tag. So it tells you have an error, but their error is actually with our second paragraph. And the problem with that is I never closed my first paragraph. You notice, again, it displays just fine. But it just doesn't, well, it won't, and the problem with this, with all these errors, it may not display in a cell phone or a tablet or something like that that expects valid code. So it expects the syntax to be okay. So let's go fix that. Let me make sure I save that. So anyway, the point is this validator will find your syntax errors for you. But you need to have this full document structure in here. And then you can just run it through the validator. And we'll keep running it through here until we find and correct all our errors. So there we go, we're down to 11, and if we see the error, the next error says, hey, end tag for the BR is omitted. Well, again, this looks fine for HTML, but for XHTML, remember these guys need to be closed this way. Same thing, my image tag needs to be closed this way. So let's just take care of these close tags, and then we'll do one more, and then we'll, I don't want to show you every error and drag you through all this. But let's just make sure I save it. I probably just did, but it's early in the morning here, and I'm not sure what I'm doing sometimes. Okay, so we will load it up one more time. Revalidate it. Now we're down to 7 errors. And it says, hey, there's no attribute called SRC with big S here, right? Let's look down here, too. Then on this one, it's basically saying, doesn't tell you this, but you got to quote your attribute values. That was the other rule. So let's go take care of those. We'll make this little src. We'll put quotes. So I'm going to do double quotes on this one and single quotes on this one. And we'll see that I think that'll take care of it. So we'll save that. Come back here. Load it up again. And say revalidate. And now when we see green up here, that means all our syntax errors are gone. And another thing we can do once we do this is we can copy this, as they tell you. You can copy this, put it in your page, and just tell everybody, yeah, you're valid XHTML. You're valid. Okay, so again, the point of this is that there's an online free validator that you can use to check for syntax rules. And that the HTML syntax is not okay. We really want to use XHTML syntax, but how do you know? Okay, so watch this video over again if you need to, but I think, I'm not really concerned that you understand every one of those errors that we fixed in every element. I threw the P element in there, and there's the EM element, but just that you know that you can use this validation service to check your files.